All right, so we're diving into something about One Piece today that you might find pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about how fans first reacted to the Marineford arc.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you probably know Marineford as like
Oh, yeah, one of the best arcs.
exactly one of the most beloved arcs, but it turns out it wasn't always that way.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is we've got this Reddit thread here,
Okay.
and it's basically like a time capsule.
Oh, cool.
It's filled with comments from people who were actually reading the manga as the arc was coming out.
Wow, so like their live reactions?
Exactly, like week to week as it was unfolding. So
That's awesome.
get ready for some serious nostalgia and maybe some opinions that might raise an eyebrow or two.
Alrighty, let's hear it.
What's really fascinating is that this arc, like you said, it's considered a masterpiece now. But when it was first coming out, it got a wave of, let's just say, less than enthusiastic responses.
Oh, wait, seriously?
Oh, okay. I gotta know, what were people saying back then?
Well, just imagine, okay,
Right.
You're waiting week after week for the new chapter.
Right.
And then you finally get it. And the Straw Hats,
Yeah.
the heart and soul of One Piece, are basically sidelined.
Oh,
You can, like, practically feel the frustration in some of these comments.
I bet.
Yeah, like one user, Fire Fist fan,
Okay.
wrote, "It's like we're watching a completely different crew. Where's the Straw Hat dynamic we all love?"
Wow. Yeah. I can see how that would be jarring for readers,
Yeah,
especially those who are like super invested in the Straw Hats journey.
for sure, for sure.
But it's Marineford. Like,
I know.
the world's at war. The stakes are huge.
Absolutely. But remember,
Yeah.
when you're reading week to week,
Yeah.
it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
It's all about anticipation and immediate payoff.
You want that next hit right away.
Yeah, exactly. So when the focus shifts to side characters,
Okay.
even really important ones like Whitebeard's commanders or the warlords, some readers felt like the story was dragging or like it was losing its identity.
So it wasn't just that the Straw Hats were kind of sidelined.
Right.
It was the pacing itself.
Exactly. The pacing was a huge point of contention.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of people thought the arc was too slow.
Really?
Yeah, too much build-up and not enough of those, like,
Big fights.
yeah, the epic battles that One Piece is known for.
Right.
Instead, they were getting a lot of maneuvering, dialogue, and character moments.
Yeah.
And while those things are super important for the story,
Absolutely, for the tension and the emotional depth.
yeah, exactly. But when you're in that weekly format,
Right.
it can feel like obstacles.
Yeah.
Like you just want to get to the good stuff.
It's like being on a roller coaster that just keeps climbing and climbing.
Yes,
With like only brief moments of those thrilling drops.
exactly.
And you're just sitting there like, when is the real excitement going to start?
Right.
I can definitely see how waiting a whole week for the next chapter would make that feeling even worse.
Oh, for sure it would.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got Luffy struggling to reach Ace,
Oh, yeah.
which is like the whole driving force of the arc, right?
Right.
But for a lot of readers, all of his setbacks and defeats
Yeah.
just became really frustrating. Like comment after comment in this thread
Yeah.
just expresses this feeling of helplessness.
Really?
Yeah, like one user even said, "It's painful watching Luffy fail over and over. I just want him to reach his brother already."
I remember that feeling. You're rooting for Luffy so hard, but every time he takes a step forward, it's like 2 steps back.
Right.
It's like Oda is a master at creating tension and suspense.
Oh, yeah.
But I can see how it would have been tough to deal with week after week.
Oh, for sure. And here's the kicker.
Okay.
While all this was happening, the sales figures for the One Piece volumes during Marineford
Yeah.
were through the roof.
Wait a minute. Seriously?
Yeah,
So people were complaining online, but still buying the books.
it seems that way.
That's so interesting. It's like there's this disconnect between the vocal minority and the rest of the fan base.
It does suggest that maybe the arc wasn't universally disliked.
Yeah?
It could be that the negativity was just amplified online.
That makes sense. It's like when you're venting to your friends about a show.
Yeah,
You might have some criticisms, but you're still watching.
exactly. You're still invested.
But hold on, there's this one commenter, Sork8,
Okay.
and they bring up a good point.
What's that?
They say, doesn't the sales data for the volumes reflect the purchases made after the arc was finished?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily capture how people felt week to week.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, so maybe people jumped on the hype train once they saw how the whole arc played out.
It's possible. Yeah, maybe word of mouth spread about like the epic climax and all the emotional moments.
And the impact it had on the whole One Piece world.
Right, exactly. But then that leaves us with a bit of a puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
How do we explain the initial negativity? And then the widespread love for Marineford that came later?
Well, that's the million-berry question, isn't it?
It is.
And to answer it, I think we need to look at how people's opinions of the arc shifted over time.
Right.
And how binge reading plays a role in all of this.
Exactly.
But before we do that,
yeah,
let's take a closer look at some of those specific criticisms of Marineford and see if they hold up when we look back on the arc. Now we know the whole story.
I'm game. Let's do it. You know, it's amazing how, like, the way we experience a story can totally change how we see it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, when you're reading week to week, you're so focused on what's happening right now, the cliffhangers, all that.
Gotta know what happens next.
Exactly. But when you binge an arc, you get to see the bigger picture.
Okay.
Like all those little threads that Oda weaves together.
Yeah, totally.
Over multiple chapters, you wouldn't even notice them week to week.
So you're saying that the stuff that people complained about during the weekly release, like the focus on side characters or this slower pacing, actually becomes a good thing when you look at the arc as a whole.
Exactly. Like, think about those moments with Whitebeard's commanders.
Okay.
Their backstories, their loyalty to Whitebeard.
Yeah.
In the moment, they might have felt like distractions from Luffy.
Right.
But when you read the whole arc, you realize they add so much depth and tragedy.
Right. It's like we were too focused on the individual pieces of the puzzle to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And each sacrifice, each act of defiance, it all adds to the emotional weight of Marineford.
But what about the pacing?
Right.
Does that really change when you binge the arc?
It can, for sure.
Okay.
Because when you're not waiting a week between chapters,
right,
those lower moments don't feel as slow.
Right.
They actually help build tension and anticipation.
Okay.
For those explosive payoffs.
Yeah, it makes it more exciting.
Exactly. And you start to appreciate the way Oda balances the action with character development and world building.
That's true. But I'm still thinking about those complaints about Luffy's struggles.
Oh, yeah.
Like, those must have been just as frustrating whether you binged it or not.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
When you're reading week to week,
right,
each defeat feels like a huge setback.
Right, like a punch to the gut.
Yeah. Like it's delaying his reunion with Ace.
Urgh, I hate that feeling.
But when you binge the arc, you see those failures differently.
Okay, how so?
They become part of his growth, you know, a testament to how determined he is.
So instead of being frustrated, you start to admire him.
Exactly. And you understand what his struggles really mean.
Okay.
It's not just about getting to Ace.
It's bigger than that.
It is. It's about him challenging the world government.
Right.
Fighting for what he believes in.
Yeah. Even when it seems impossible.
Exactly.
You know, it makes me wonder if those early negative reactions were because Marineford challenged our expectations.
Well, that's interesting.
We were used to seeing Luffy overcome stuff pretty quickly. And here he was facing these impossible challenges, failing over and over.
Pushing himself to the limit.
Yeah. And maybe some fans just weren't ready for that.
I think you're right. And it shows how brilliant Oda is as a storyteller. He wasn't afraid to shake things up.
To take us out of our comfort zone.
Exactly. To take both his characters and his readers on this crazy, intense journey.
But isn't that what makes Marineford so good?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about the fights and the powers. It's about the cost of war, the sacrifices and the bonds that are tested.
And strengthened through all the hardship.
Exactly. I remember this one comment in the thread by Xudilla. It said, sometimes we only recognize the true mastery of an arc with the passage of time.
Wow, that's perfect.
And I think that's so true for Marineford.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sometimes you need that distance.
Right.
To really appreciate a story like One Piece.
To let it all sink in.
Exactly. We need time to process everything that happened.
And think about the themes.
And see how everything connects to create this masterpiece.
But there's another interesting thing here.
What's that?
We can compare Marineford to another arc that got a lot of criticism.
Oh, you mean Wano?
Yeah, Wano. I bet this Reddit thread has some strong opinions about that.
Oh, I'm sure it does. It's almost like history repeating itself.
How so?
Well, a lot of the criticisms of Marineford are being thrown at Wano now, too.
Really? Like what?
The pacing, the focus on side characters.
Right.
The detours from the main plot.
So is this just going to happen with every big One Piece arc?
Maybe it's a good question.
Well, fans always complain at first and then love it later.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
To understand it, I think we have to look at online discussions and fan forums
Okay.
and how they shape our opinions.
Right, because they can really amplify negative reactions.
Especially with weekly releases.
I get that when you're waiting for that next chapter.
Yeah.
It's easy to focus on what's bugging you.
And those frustrations can blow up online.
Because everyone wants to share their immediate thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. And those reactions are often driven by wanting things to happen fast.
Right, you want the big reveals, the epic battles.
Right, you want the payoff now.
But we miss all the subtle stuff.
Yeah, all the small details that actually make the story great.
Like, we're so focused on the destination,
Right.
we forget to enjoy the journey.
Exactly. And sometimes the journey has detours and obstacles.
And moments that make you wonder where it's all going.
But isn't that what makes a story interesting?
That's a good point. The twists and turns.
Get characters that surprise you.
The stuff that makes you think.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe what we see as flaws at first are actually part of Oda's plan.
Like ingredients in a recipe?
And maybe those side plots and character moments are all part of something bigger.
A beautiful tapestry.
That we can only appreciate when we see the whole thing.
Exactly. And that brings us to a question for you, the listener.
Okay.
Knowing how fan reactions change over time, does that change how you experience One Piece? Yeah. Do you go for that instant gratification of binging?
Right.
Where you can just take in the whole arc at once?
See how it all fits together?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or do you prefer that week-to-week anticipation?
Oh, yeah.
The thrill of speculating and discussing it with other fans?
Right. Even if it means you get frustrated sometimes.
Exactly.
Because let's be real, there's something special about reacting to a big moment with everyone else.
Oh, for sure.
Like that collective gasp when something crazy happens.
Yeah, or all the theories and speculation online after a big chapter.
It's like being part of a giant book club.
Exactly. Everyone experiencing it together.
But I can also see why someone would want to avoid spoilers.
Oh, yeah?
To just dive into the arc without being influenced by other people.
Right, to form your own opinions and connect with the story on your own terms.
So is there a right way to experience a One Piece arc?
That's a tough one. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It really depends on what you prefer.
Right.
Some people love that week-to-week excitement. And others want that immersive binge experience.
And maybe there's something good about both approaches.
Oh, absolutely.
Like maybe experiencing an arc in both ways.
Yeah.
First week to week and then binging it later.
Gives you a deeper understanding of it.
Exactly. It's like revisiting a favorite book or movie years later.
Yeah, you notice things you didn't see before.
Connect with the characters in new ways.
And really appreciate how well it's made.
And with One Piece, there's always something new to discover.
Always.
Even after multiple rereads.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so great.
It's a world you can keep coming back to.
A story that sticks with you.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
From those early reactions to Marineford to how people's opinions of arcs like Dressrosa have changed.
Right.
To the whole debate about how to experience One Piece.
It's complicated.
It really is. There's no easy answer.
But maybe that's okay.
Yeah, maybe the fun is in the journey itself.
The discussions, the debates.
The stuff that makes being a One Piece fan so awesome.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up our look at Marineford, we want you to think about your own relationship with One Piece.
How do you like to experience the story?
And how have your opinions changed over time?
Let us know your thoughts.
And until next time, keep exploring the Grand Line.